Hey everybody, good morning. It's Tuesday, about 8:07 in the morning here on May 23rd, 2023. I'm going to be here to take a look at the S&P 500. I'm also going to take a look at Bitcoin. I kind of want to take a look at maybe AMD and also Tesla before I get into the indexes. But before I get into all this, of course, as you all know, this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. You're responsible for your own trades, managing your own risk, doing your own research, and this is just my opinion on the market. So what I'm going to do this morning here is I'm going to start with AMD. I'm going to move on into Tesla, and then I'll go into the S&P 500. Then I'm going to take a look at Bitcoin and maybe some other varying factors that are in Bitcoin as well. So let's go ahead and move on into the chart. So I was looking at AMD yesterday, and it's had a pretty impressive rally. Same thing with NVIDIA. If you've been watching my Twitter feed or if you're on the Insured, you know that we've been playing NVIDIA for quite some time, and AMD here and there, whenever things, kind of line up pretty well. But we're actually at a point now where I'm not necessarily saying that we're going to be topping out here, but if I was going to go short on AMD, this would probably be about the area that I would do it. Now, of course, NVIDIA looks a lot different than AMD. So let me just move on into NVIDIA just to do a little bit of a comparison here. All right, so I've got a lot on here. So let me just go ahead and remove all of these different drawings. So if you take a look at NVIDIA, right, so I put an idea out on TradingView that basically outlined the fact that we had like an inverted head and shoulders here, and that has already played out. The initial target was right here where we had some resistance. The next one was like right here at about 337, right? So 337, it takes us to about, actually, it's about right here. One way or another, we're like really, really close to creating a double top, right? So if you take a look at that and you kind of look, sideways, that's really right about where that top was. That's at about 336, 337 is like right there. So we're basically there. So I would be very cautious going into, the next couple weeks here with NVIDIA up here, but also, again, focusing on AMD, we've got this 618 retracement. And if you know me, as well as I hope you know me, if you've been watching me for any amount of time, you know that some of my favorite trades to take are at the 61.8, 62% internal retracement level. So let's, I'm just going to go ahead and put this, where is, there we go. I wanted to show the percentages versus the decimal. So it's 61.8%. That's really right where we're at right now. Now, typically what tends to happen is we might see a little bit of a pullback here and then another retest, right? So this kind of goes into June before we see a significant pullback. But starting some kind of a longer term short position, I mean, your risk to reward here is really pretty good. What I've seen a lot of people do in recent times is, because we haven't seen the volatility in the market, what I've seen a lot of people do is take the trade here and exit it at the 382. And so that, again, that would be a pretty significant move, if I'm being honest. So we're taking it from about right there. We're looking, potentially over time about a 23% pullback. Now, technically, if we're being completely open and honest with each other here, the target's going to be about $42. Now, is that actually going to happen? That would be a pretty significant move. We're talking like a 60% move. Is that about right? Yeah, 61%. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that AMD is going to drop 60-some% from the prices where it's at right now, unless something catastrophic in the global economy happens. Because again, you have to realize AMD isn't necessarily a US-based company. AMD is a company that operates globally. So even if the United States has a default, AMD is probably not going to be affected as much as, say, Johnson & Johnson or as Ford. These US-based companies are going to be the ones that get hurt the most, but these global companies are going to be the ones that, fare a little better than others. Banks are probably going to be the ones that get hurt the most. We're talking like JP Morgan, Chase, maybe even American Express, Visa, MasterCard, things like that. So I would be very cautious on banks as we move into whatever's going to happen with the U.S. debt crisis that's currently looming. Not going to get too much into that on this video here. All right, so that's AMD. I do want to take a look at Tesla. probably going to have to clear off a lot of my old levels that I've got here. So let me just go ahead and clear this off. And let's just take a look and see what this chart looks like. Now, it's very sporadic, right? So if we compare this to, say, NVIDIA, right? This didn't go up as high. This went down deeper. This didn't go up as high. And then we did have this, right? And then we came up here. We came down, and then we're obviously a lot higher. So from a fractal perspective, Tesla doesn't look anything like NVIDIA. But when we came all the way down here, we're on a daily time frame. Just take a look and see what the indicator suggested. Down here at the bottom, all the way on the way down, it was like basically saying, hey, buy, buy, buy. And then we had a little bit of a sell, which was right here, right? So we had a buy down in this area. We'll go ahead and consume a little bit of this right here. But the crossover occurred, right? So the crossover occurred right here. We had this little bit of a spike up, pull back, right? And then it continued higher, and it went up in a significant way. So let's just go ahead and take a look. If you bought on that cross and you sold on the crossover, it's a 64% trade that Tesla had. Now, of course, from the bottom to the top, it was over 100%. But realistically speaking, nobody in a consistent way buys at the very bottom and sells at the very top. That is, there's no consistent trader out there that does that, right? It's just not even the institutions, buy at the bottom and sell at the top. That's just not the way that, consistent trading works. Now, what I can say is what we've got right here, what it looks to me is a little A, B, C correction. This does look corrective. And again, I'm not saying that this correction is done, but what I can say is if we take out this level right here, so let me just go ahead and mark it off. If we take out this level right here, right? And again, this is the way I play options when I day trade, realizing that I'm looking at the daily chart here. But when I'm day trading, I'm looking at like a 5 or a 3 minute, a 5 minute, sometimes a 10 or a 15 minute chart. If we break a level, that's when I usually get into a position, right? So if you've been watching me for any amount of time, that's usually what I like to do. Now, we're going to have some resistance here at this level. Again, if you take a look left, this level right here lines up pretty nicely from that level that I outlined here at this top where we stopped back on March 31st. So if we can take out that level, well, I'm pretty confident in saying we're probably going to go to this level next, right? So I'm just going to mark this off. So that's going to be a move from 207 to 237. It's a $30 move. That's pretty significant. That's about 15% if my calculations are right. So there's, about 14.2%. That's a significant move. If we break that level, well, then I think we can reasonably assume we're going to move to the next level, which is going to be right around here, which is going to be about 266, right? So you get the idea. When we break a level, more than likely we're going to be moving to the next level. That's going to be the next level, 314. And then we're starting to reach an area of less price discovery, right? So if we do launch out of here, these are the areas that I would be interested in looking at. Now, if we take a look at this from an Elliott wave perspective, what I can say here from this bottom, I can kind of count a 1, 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 5. Okay? So from there, if we got 5 waves up and then we've got 3 waves down, I would reasonably expect we're going to get, 5 more waves up, but let's just go ahead and see if our target matches. So we've got this dominant pivot low, this dominant pivot high, and then let's get this pullback. Where does this line up with? Well, let's just take a look at the 100 for a moment, okay? So that 100 is going to be right there. It's almost perfect at 266 to 267, right? So here in this level, that's going to be your first level. And then that would be if it's an ABC correction, right? Okay, so let's just go ahead and put that on here. So if we've got 5 waves up into an A, 3 waves down into a B, and then we've got 5 waves up into a C, of course this would be on a higher degree, that would be an ABC correction, right? So let's just go ahead and put that in there. We're going to put it in there as that pink color. Now, if this is 5 waves up into a 1, 3 waves down into a 2, then really we're talking about continuing up to new highs. because what that would then mean is we're going to be taking a look at a move up here to the 1618 to the 175, and it just so happens that that 175 lines up very nicely with this 359 level, which is evidenced by this resistance here. We've got a little bit of support here, some clusters, so on and so forth. But what that would then mean is from here at the bottom, we've got 5 waves up into a 1, 3 waves down into a 2, and then we're looking at a move up here into 3. Then we get a pullback for 4, and then we go up for 5. And again, that would more than likely be a move to new highs. So let's just go ahead and mark this also in this pink color, because this is really just a projection. This is not a prediction. This is a projection. So assuming that we do take out this level here at 207.52, that's going to be our level that we need to break through. So that's going to be a very, very important. Oh, wrong one. So let's change this. The line color, I want this to be red. And I also want it to be just a little bit thicker, because that's going to be an important level to push through. Again, if we could push through it, 237 and then 265 likely are going to be the next targets. Let's wait and see what happens if and when we get to 265 to 268. Taking a look at the indicator, right? Look at the indicator. We're on the daily. The white and the red wave are moving up, and they're pushing out of the bearish control zone, and they're moving more into the neutral zone. The yellow wave is still kind of moving down, right? And the green wave, we're starting to see the potential for some hidden bearish divergence, right? So it's not completely there, but we're creating a lower high, and the indicator is very close to creating a higher high on the green wave, right? The yellow wave is still pointing down, right? Even though we've had some pretty good couple weeks here, right? Starting from the bottom there, which was at the end of April, so almost a month ago. So we've got this green wave that has pretty much moved up here into the bullish control zone. If we don't take out this red wave, or sorry, this red trend line that I put on here, excuse me, if we don't take that out and we start to roll over, this green wave will start to roll over, and we'll start to create that hidden bearish divergence, which will basically take us probably back down here to the 144, maybe even down to the 130s, somewhere in this area if we do see a failure. So let's just go ahead and just very quickly here, because I know time is precious and we are spending a lot of it talking about individual stocks, but I think it's important to do this. So let's take a look at this. We did not make it to the 50. We did not make it to the 618. So looking at this, it's very possible that we do see that hidden bearish divergence roll over and we move down into June. Now, if that happens, that will sort of add fuel to the fire for SPX, which is what I'm going to be talking about here in just a second. So for Tesla to make a move down here to the 618 would be ideal, and that would still be a valid case for the A, B, C. Take a look at that negative 236. It's right here at 260. Take a look at that 100. Now that 100 is also going to then move. If we do go down here to the 618, that 100 moves down a little bit down here to 252. So really it depends on how far down we go. If we go down any further, right? We don't have to, right? That target is still going to be sitting there at about 265 to 268. That negative 236 is still going to be sitting there at about 260. That's not going to move because we've got our dominant pivot low, we've got our dominant pivot high, and we haven't, we really haven't tested the 50. We haven't tested the 618. And again, we don't have to. But if we do, that adds more fuel to the fire. That a move up here to this 260 to 270 area is very likely to hit, right? So right now we're taking a look at this as the potential for an A, B, C. But again, if we take a move down here a little bit further here to the 618, then we're taking a look again at a move still at an ABC, still looking for a move up here to 260 to 270, somewhere in that area. So that's kind of where my mind is right now. If we happen to get down there and we get another buy signal here on the daily, that would be a pretty significant buy for me, right? Again, we had it down here, right? We talked about this. That would be at a buy at about $120. That would be pretty fantastic considering that we're at like 187.67 in pre-market right now. But if we can see that roll over and we see this thing start to reset, and again, we're taking a look for something like this, take this, move this back down, right here to about OPEX in June, that would be a pretty reasonable projection that we could be seeing a move again back down to 148, maybe down into the mid 130s. That would be a move down to the 618. That'd be a great place to be buying for probably the second half of the year. I think the second half of the year is probably going to be pretty bullish. But again, we're just going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to wait and see what happens with the debt crisis. We're going to have to see what happens with whatever bill comes out for the debt ceiling. There's just a lot of different factors that are going to be going into the market over the next few weeks. And I think we're really approaching, what I'll refer to as D-Day. We're getting really close to the end of this cycle before we start to see that volatility get back into the market. So let's take a look at the S&P 500. So I've been going for about 15 minutes here. What I'm kind of expecting the market to do is, it's already on this chart. I'm not going to change what I think is going to happen. I do think we are going to see a move come down, right? What we saw previously, we saw a lot of people that were really, really heavy on this. And I wasn't so much of a fan of this, but there was some merit to it, but we broke out of it, right? People were talking about the diamond top formation, and it's still valid. I'm sorry, it's not valid, but it was a valid it was a valid formation at the time. It just happens to have been invalidated. So I think that's important. But now what I'm starting to see, right? I'm starting to see things like this, right? So we've got that, and then we've got this. We're starting to see people talking about a megaphone, right? Which is, I can't say that this is invalid, right? What that would suggest is that we would be seeing a move from up here. We'd be seeing a move down to about right here, right? So that'd be a move down to about 4,000. And a move down to 4,000, that would be ideal. That again would take us into about mid-June. What I will say is on the daily, we're starting to see signs of a sell signal on the daily, on the WaveMaster. That's something that we haven't seen since back here on February 7th. And we can see what happened back on February 7th. This was the actual sell signal that we got right here. And we saw that move down, and it went down 8.23%. So if we see, like the big if, right? But if we see a move down 8%, that would be a move down to roughly right here. I don't know that this is going to be what happens, right? A lot of things are different now compared to then. Certainly the price action, or not the price action, but the price itself is comparable to where we were back at the beginning of February. But the red wave and the white wave are closer to the bullish control zone, right? And that's something that we haven't seen the red and the white wave up in this area since all the way back here when we saw, of course we saw a big move up. Even though this was trending down, we were seeing things start to curl up. And on the green wave especially, right, we were starting to see things curl up. We had a nice impressive move going into August of last year. It was an 18% move. Now we have seen an even more significant move. We've seen a 20% move, and that is pretty significant. We have to recognize that. But what I've also seen a lot of people talk about is, everybody likes formations and fractals and so on and so forth. But what I'm starting to see is the crowd talk about something like this, getting a move down here, a move up, and then down, and then up, and then down, like this, right? And what that would then mean is that we're creating a larger diamond top formation. And it's way too early to tell, right? I talk about this kind of thing all the time. If you're talking about an inverted head and shoulders, right? So let's just talk about that for just a moment. If you're talking about an inverted head and shoulders, you see a lot of people right here saying, we're going to come back down here and then we're going to launch up, right? That's not how you predict a chart formation. You need to get this move back down here, and then you need to wait for the price action to come back here, and then you need to wait for it to break out. And ideally, you'll get a retest before it continues. This is what happened with NVIDIA, right? what you have to do is you have to find your neckline, right? And you have to wait for the breakout, right? You have to wait for the breakout. The whole formation has to finish and has to confirm, right? So we had the breakout, the retest, right? Let's say we put that right there. And that would be a valid inverted head and shoulders formation. For this, the confirmation doesn't happen until this happens right here. So you have to wait, right? Trading is a game of patience, which is why a lot of people trade off of the 5-minute chart, which is fine. That's how I day trade options. But these are the things you have to wait for. You have to wait for things to work out before you get into a heavy trade. Now, there's nothing wrong with scaling into something that might turn into something bigger, but you can't get yourself caught up in a bias, especially a strong bias, too early. You need to give yourself that time for things to work out. So SPX closed at 41.92. Futures are currently at 41.86. So we're looking to be we're looking to open up not much lower than what we closed yesterday. We're talking about a loss of like 10 points. Not anything significant. It's still possible that we can see a move higher. On SPY, we're going to be watching 420 pretty closely. If we can see some buying pressure above 420, that would be ideal. So you can see pre-market, we're at 417.85. If we can get close to, and again, you're gonna notice that the Wave Master is going to be very similar on SPY as it is on SPX. Again, we're starting to see that sell signal on SPY, but notice that we didn't get that sell signal back here. We were close, but it kind of fell a little earlier. The green wave fell a little earlier, so we didn't get the overlap in the bullish control zone to get that sell signal that SPX got. But right now we've got a good sell signal, or at least I shouldn't say a signal, it's more of a warning at this moment in time. We have a sell warning here on SPY, but if we can get a move up above 420 and we can see some buying pressure, I certainly believe it's possible we can move up to 421 to 422, and in a perfect world we'd get up here to 427 to 428. And also this would happen today and or tomorrow, because tomorrow, Wednesday, there's FOMC. There's a lot of things that are going to be going on in the market tomorrow, and we want to be kind of out of a lot of heavy positions because a lot of things can change, and we want to make sure that we don't get caught. So we don't get caught in the wrong side. That's what we want to focus on here. Okay, let's take a look at our good friend Bitcoin. All right. Obviously, I haven't looked at this chart in a while, so I want to retain some of this here. So let's go ahead and just clean off what we've got down here from the bottom. So, okay, we've got some levels here, and I want to pull this out because I actually think this area is going to be important moving forward, so that anything below this is going to be our bearish control zone. If we get below this, it's not looking too good. All right, so let's go ahead. I actually want to clean off a lot of this here. I'm going to have to probably go back and take a look at this because this was another chart layout that I had. What I want to focus on here is really what's happened in this move, right? So what I can say is from this level right here, from this bottom right here, we've got a little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in here into the 1, and we've got to move down here into the 2, and then we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into the 3, and then we've got to move down here, A, B, C, down here into the 4, and then a potential move up here to a 5, right? So this 5-wave structure, it's a deep 4, but it was a shallow 2, right? A very deep 4, and then a move up here to the 5th wave, and then again that correction. This looks a lot like Tesla, right? This move down here, A, B, C, down here into the 2, again, possible we see a move lower. Now, what I can say is this level right here at about 26,700. That level, I think we can all agree, has continued to be pretty strong support. And if we see a move below this and a daily closure below this, right? So we've got lots of things to be watching right here. So if we take our little seeing eye and take a look here, we've got some resistance right there. We've got lots of support right here, tons of support down here. And then let's move over, right? Obviously we had some support here, and then we had a stop here back on June 12th, and then a deep continuation. So I think this level right here is also very, very important. Let's just go ahead and move on to the left and focus again on just this red line. We did have a little bit of resistance on the move up. So let's go ahead and put this little eye right there. Right there, we had a couple days where we consolidated right there at, again, about our level there is about 26,700. So if we break that level, chances are pretty good we're gonna be seeing a move down to new local lows, right? Again, I'm not talking about a significant move to the downside, but if I were to put a channel on this, I would say that it is very likely that we're going to see a move, depending on how long it takes, to this lower trend line, right? If we go into mid-June, like we're talking about for the greater stock market, right? So if we go to about the 16th, the 17th of June, that's going to be moved down here to about 24,500, about 24,500, which falls in line. I'm going to put a little line right there. So we're going to be focusing on this right here. And again, that's going to basically be your OPEX in June, right? So again, Bitcoin could see a move higher and then a move lower, get a couple waves down there. And that's going to be basically a good retest of all of this right here and all of this right here. We really haven't seen a bullish retest of that. It's been resistance, and then we had some resistance here, right? Push through. Now we're trying to get that pullback retest in that zone. If we get that, and if it just so happens that we see this yellow wave reset, right? We're talking about this happening with also this happening right here on the green wave. We'll go ahead and outline that as green because that's what we're kind of expecting to happen there. If we get all of this, and it just so happens that we get a good buy signal down here on Bitcoin, you better be buying, because it's very, very possible that Bitcoin going into the second half of the year could see a significant move to the upside. Right, so I've been pretty bullish on Bitcoin ever since December, and we can all agree with that. Even holding through a lot of this pullback, I'm like, we're probably going to be going to new local highs, and that's exactly what happened, right? So we had this pullback in a spring, and now after that spring happened, wanting to see a good retest of that. We want to see a good retest of this resistance to prove that that's going to be a new important level of support. If we can prove that that's going to be a level of support, then I think we can talk about a price action, or at least price targets going to new highs. And when I say new highs, I mean for the year. I'm not talking about moving to a new all-time high. But if we get that, we're talking about move almost to exactly 40,000, right? We're literally talking about a $100 deviance there, a $100 deviation. So really, if we do get this, and we get this pullback right here, a move to the 100, which is going to be right there at about 40,000, that's in sight for the end of the year. And that would be a very good thing for crypto in particular. Let's take a look at tether dominance, right? So I've been talking about tether dominance for a while now. And again, we've been watching this in terms of, let's see here, let me get this off of log scale. Right, so we've got a couple trend lines, and I put this idea out on TradingView, quite some time ago, and it was actually, I think it was back here on the very beginning of January, right? So we have this trend line here. We call this the norm, right? So this is just our trend line that is that's the norm. Then we have another trend line where we had exponential growth, and that was basically this guy right here. Right, so we had a pullback test, pullback test, pullback test, and then a breakdown. And then what did we have after the breakdown? We had a bearish retest. This is what I'm talking about. What we want to see happen to Bitcoin. Again, going into that move down to that 24 to 25,000 level. We want a bullish retest, but in this case, it was a bearish retest and a rejection. So if tether dominance can break down below this level right here, which is at about 6.4%. If we can break down below that, what I would really expect to see, move down here, get this bearish retest, and then get a move down here going into, as you can see, we're talking about move into the beginning of 2024. And if tether dominance is decreasing, what is going to be increasing? It could be Bitcoin dominance. It absolutely could be Bitcoin dominance. If Bitcoin dominance breaks up and out of here, it's going to move to 58%. It absolutely, if we can seriously see this break up and out of here, get a bullish retest on this going into 2024, right? So if we actually try and project this out, we're basically talking about something like this happening with Bitcoin dominance. If altcoins do absolutely nothing and Bitcoin dominance is what's going to take over, we're going to get pushed right out of this zone that I've been talking about for the better part of a couple of months now. Push up and out of this zone, get a bullish retest here of that 49% level, and a move up here to that 58% level. Now, that would mean that altcoins are probably going to get demolished, which we have to recognize that that's a possibility. And if we get this push out of here, I'm going to be looking to move out of altcoins and moving into just Bitcoin, because we all have to realize that Bitcoin is still number one, and it's going to be number one for a long, long time. Certainly, there are altcoins out there that are great. They've got low fees. They're fast. They're private. Lots of different things that other altcoins are good for. But most altcoins are trash. There are some altcoins that I'm not going to endorse any on this video, but there are some altcoins that are good. But what I will say is Bitcoin is still king. Ethereum, it has come a long way in terms of trying to flip the dominance of Bitcoin. But Bitcoin dominance, 48%. That means Bitcoin is still almost half of the entire crypto market. That's a big deal. And if it continues to increase, that means that your little altcoins, they're not going to perform as well. Now, certainly their USD value is going to go up, but watch their BTC value. If their BTC value is moving down while Bitcoin is going up, then you're losing alpha. Yeah, certainly you're gaining a little bit of USD, but you're losing alpha. And you would be gaining more if you would just be sitting in Bitcoin. And I realize I've been going here for 32 minutes, so I'm going to wrap it up here. But keep an eye on this, but also keep an eye on Total 3, which is going to be your crypto market cap, which is going to be without Bitcoin and Ethereum. So there's no Bitcoin, no Ethereum in the Total 3 market cap. So again, watching this, what do we have here? The potential for an inverted head and shoulders. Now, I say potential because what did I say? We've got a potential for a left shoulder. We've got a potential for a head. This right shoulder has not confirmed. We need this right here to be able to even consider this as an inverted head and shoulders. If we see this happen, right? It's big if. If we see this happen, we're more than likely going to see a move up to a $637 billion, $640 billion market cap, right? That would be a pretty significant rise, especially compared to where we're at right now. If we're going to go all the way up there, we're talking about an increase of about 81% in the altcoin market cap. So if Bitcoin dominance does get rejected here at the 48 to 50% level and starts to move back down to the 30s, the upper 30s, lower 40s even, that would be what we would need for the altcoins to increase in value. What I can say here on the weekly, the yellow wave looks pretty bad. The white wave looks pretty bad. If I move to the daily, let's just see what the daily looks like. Yeah, the red and the white wave look pretty good, and the green wave looks all right. Right? This yellow wave, we need to get a good buy signal, right? We got on the Total 3, we got a buy signal in December, and then we got a really, really good buy signal here in December. And again, this is where I was buying altcoins, and this is where I was able to get NEAR, and this is where I was able to get ACH and several other altcoins, because the altcoin market cap was at an area where it was saying we're going to be in for a significant relief rally pretty soon. And we were able to get great plays off of that. And so what I would say is, If this guy right here, this yellow wave, gets down here into the oversold, and the green wave gets down here into oversold as well, that would be a good place to be buying again, right? So keep an eye on that, because it's very likely that we are going to see this pullback, and I would be looking to throw in whatever dry powder that you've got, put it into to some strong alts. Don't put it into garbage. If you do put things into garbage, be very, very careful. I put out a meme coin play a couple weeks ago, and it went up 100, 200%. I gave, a strong indication, like, you need to be getting out, you need to be scaling out. And, what ended up happening after that, within probably 24 hours, it basically dropped down to zero. And so when I'm doing plays on absolute garbage, you get in and you get out. You're really waiting for that marketing push, and you get out. Right, you get out on the marketing push. You don't get in after the marketing push. After that marketing push has happened, don't play. If you're in early, you get in early, and you get out on the marketing push, and you're done. Do not buy any meme coins on any kind of marketing push that you see on Twitter. It's just a pump and dump. If you can get in before, then that's great. You've timed it well. You get out, though. You get out when you see the profit. But if you can get into a strong altcoin, then you'll probably be okay as soon as this gets down here. What this looks to me like what we're starting to see is a strong V-shaped formation here, and then let me just close that guy there. And then what we're also looking at is the potential for an Adam and Eve. So we've got this Eve potentially forming here. Give it time. Wait for it to confirm. Because if we can see this and we can see a breakout here, again, we're talking about a pretty significant move up in altcoins. So, really, there's several things that can happen, because there are thousands of altcoins out there. There's Bitcoin that could take over. And then there's also the scenario where we could just absolutely crash depending on what happens to the global economy. But I tend to believe that even if the global economy crashes, I think Bitcoin is probably going to fare pretty well, because the younger you are, the more likely you're going to be to buy Bitcoin instead of gold. And that's just facts, because the history suggests that gold is not appreciating in value the same way that Bitcoin has. A lot of people are talking pretty trashy on Bitcoin, but you have to realize that Bitcoin, right? If we take a look at Bitcoin on the monthly here, just take a look and see what Bitcoin has done. It's been absolutely insane. We've gone from basically $2 up to $28,000. Gold hasn't even touched that. Certainly, there was a point in time where gold was worthless, just like there was a point in time where Bitcoin was worthless. But gold, just for comparison, gold is right here. Bitcoin is worth 1,000% more than gold. And Bitcoin's only been around for, 13, 14 years? And gold's been around for decades, right? Centuries. Gold has been around, right? Decades was not a good example. It's been around for a very, very long time. But Bitcoin has been doing very well. So even though Bitcoin has seen drops, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin is a bad investment. It just means that maybe you got in at the wrong time. You just need to have some patience. But Bitcoin is also very algorithmic. So it does tend to honor moving averages, Fibonacci retracements. It tends to follow a lot of those things pretty well. On the monthly, what I'll say, if you take a look at the monthly, and I just happened to notice this here, I don't prepare any of this ahead of time, by the way. This is all off the cuff. I look at the chart and I tell you guys what I see. Well, what I can see is we've got a good buy here, which happened to be down here at about $200. What happened? Significant price increase. Then we saw a pullback. Well, what ended up happening here? We had a nice buy area right here, which happened to be, right here. And this was at about, $3,000 to $4,000. What happened? Significant price increase. Then we saw, a nice buy area right here, which happened to coincide right around here, which again was about $20,000. Okay. It sounds pretty ludicrous to say that $20,000 might be a good buy on Bitcoin, but after Bitcoin was $3, to then say that $200 is a good, a good buying area on Bitcoin, you would probably sound nuts, because Bitcoin increased 8,200%. To say that was a good price increase probably would sound nuts. What ended up happening? Bitcoin went up 6,000% from there. Then here we are at $3,000, $4,000. After Bitcoin was a good buy at $200, now you're saying that Bitcoin's a good buy at $3,500? Well, what ended up happening? We saw a 1,600% increase in Bitcoin. That's pretty significant, right? So the increase is getting smaller and smaller as time goes by. Again, realize from this price to this price was 40,000%. From this price to this price was 7,400%. Significant decrease in your exponential growth. From this price to this price, 2,000%. So it would be reasonable to assume that if we are going to see price action move up to new highs, we're probably only going to see, price action maybe into the 1 to 200,000 range when we get there, right? When we get there. Do I think that Bitcoin's going to go all the way up to $1 million? No, I don't want to talk about that right now. That's not what I'm interested in. What I am interested in is looking to see what we've got right now. What kind of actionable intel do we have right now to make a determination on what could happen in the future? Nothing is certain. Nothing is guaranteed. You are not owed anything. But what I can say is the last 2 times that the Wavemaster indicator on the monthly has indicated a nice solid buy signal, we have seen exponential growth. We've seen significant growth each and every time. This might be an exception because indicators fail all the time. But as long as the thesis for entering the trade remains true, then we're technically in a position to stay in the trade. So right now, am I bullish on Bitcoin? Yes. I have no reason not to be at the moment. That may change in the future. And again, I've talked about really what I'm looking for. And where is, let's see here. I must have lost it. But again, what I'm looking for is a move, up to new highs. Again, I guess I was on a daily here taking a look at this. Right, we're taking a look for a move to new highs after a potential move down here to this 24 to 25,000 area. And again, I must be on a different chart, but what I was looking at before was the potential for this guy right here. So seeing a potential move, maybe up a little bit higher, then a move down, and this is going to go into about mid-June, getting this down here and getting a solid buy on this, right? Seeing this come down here at the same time, and we're looking at OPEX in June, right? So we're kind of comparing crypto to stocks just a little bit here. If we can see all of these things come together all at the same time, that would be a great place to be buying. That'd be a great place to be buying. I would buy that all day, every day. So that's what I'm watching for. And really my bias would be that we're going to see an increase in Bitcoin's value. Again, where we were looking at that 40,000 level, looking for that increase going into probably the end of the year. I think it's going to take time, maybe November, maybe December, but somewhere out here, we're going to be taking a look for Bitcoin to get up to that 40,000 level. And if that happens, I'd be interested in shaving a lot of profit off the table, because we were buying down here at 18,000, right? We were buying here at about 17, 18,000 in this area. And especially right down here where we were watching this move up and out of here, this was at the 16 to 17,000 area. This is where I was starting to get bullish, especially on alts. And we saw Bitcoin move up significantly. We saw altcoins move up even more, and we were able to capitalize off of that. We made hundreds of % profit, non-leveraged, on ACH. We made lots of profit on NEAR, both leveraged and non-leveraged. We were able to make some significant plays off of that, so capture it when you see it. We don't have a buy signal on the daily on Bitcoin. We had several warnings that we were going to be getting a nice buy. And once that red and white wave got down here into this oversold area and it started to flatten out, that's when I was starting to get bullish on crypto, and it worked out. You know, certainly there were some attempts that were on the way that didn't work out, but that's why you get out of trades. But then now that we, you know, we had a good play off of the lows here, I'm still interested in this guy coming back down here, seeing a retest, and then moving up to 40,000 given a couple months, maybe 5 or 6 months. So you have to, again, be patient. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. I've been going for 45 minutes, so I'm just going to go ahead and close things off. If this video did help you in any way, shape, or form, you know the deal. Like, subscribe, share, follow me on Twitter, follow me on TradingView. I've been putting lots of things out on TradingView, both educationally speaking and also actionable trading ideas as well. If you need access to our indicators, if you need access to education, trades, whatever that may be, you can find all of that information on BitDoctor.org. And last but not least, wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having a good day, a good night, and a great evening. Take care, everyone.